Leonor stole the map beneath a rain of white petals. Cathedral bells rang as a wedding procession filled the market square, children chasing blossoms while every face turned toward the bride. Leonor watched the tall man in the blue traveling cloak instead. His pale gold hair had come loose from its ribbon as he laughed with an old flower seller. Beautiful men were often careless. She slipped beside him, opened the clasp beneath his cloak, and drew out a narrow leather map case. A warm hand closed around her wrist. "You are very good," he said softly, still smiling at the flower seller. Leonor tucked the case behind her belt. At accepting compliments? At theft. His gray-blue eyes turned to her. "You have my father's map. Then he should not have given it to you." He died, which made refusing rather difficult. Guilt caught her for half a breath. Leonor stamped on his boot and ran. She cleared a basket of apples, sprang onto a cart, and reached an abandoned bell tower before its balcony rail broke beneath her. She caught the ledge with both hands. The golden-haired man dropped to his knees and grabbed her forearm. "Give me the map." "You bargain like a priest." "You are hanging from a tower. And you need both hands to save me." His mouth tightened. "Lady thief, I suspect you are difficult on purpose." He hauled her up. The moment her boots touched stone, Leonor twisted free and drew a knife. "You are Julien Greystone," she said. "Your father's name is written on half the maps in the royal archives. Edmund Greystone spent 30 years searching for the tomb without crowns." His smile faded. "And the compass of lost roads," Leonor added. Legend claimed 2 crownless rulers had carried a compass able to reveal any hidden road. A king would empty a treasury for it. Julien held out his hand. "The map." Leonor smiled. "You cannot reach the tomb without me." "I reached this balcony." "You nearly lost your map and your dignity." "My dignity survived. The boot may not." Despite herself, she smiled. "You want the compass," he said. "I want what it will buy." "And what is that?" "A life no one else owns." He studied her. "You cannot read my father's marks." "You can, and I can open a sealed tomb." "Can you?" "Probably." 1/3, Julien said. "Half." 1/3, and I buy the provisions." Leonor slid away her knife. "Done." They shook hands. "Try not to rob me again." "I would never repeat myself so soon." He should have known she was lying. They left before dawn beneath a soft spring sky. Julien brought 2 strong horses, a sturdy tent, and enough provisions for a siege. Leonor brought 3 knives and silver sewn into 6 different hems. By nightfall, he had found 2 knives, and she had discovered where he kept the map. Neither mentioned it. The road climbed through green fields, flowering orchards, and dark-thatched villages. Julien read the country as easily as other men read letters. He was also cheerful before sunrise, which Leonor considered a grave defect. On the 3rd morning, they passed the same split oak twice. "We are lost," she said, pointing to the red thread she had tied around its branch. "We are not. The tree disagrees." Julien dismounted and compared the slope with Edmund's notes. Beneath brambles, he found a weathered milestone, its carved crown almost erased. Farther uphill, Leonor found another. The markers led them away from the main road and into thicker country, where alder and young birch crowded the hillside. Beneath last year's leaves, they eventually uncovered a narrow line of moss-covered paving stones, the remains of an old road climbing toward the hills. "The old King's Road," Julien said. "It vanished from maps when the northern monasteries were abandoned." They followed it deeper into the hills. By the next evening, the ancient paving had dwindled to a track too narrow for laden horses. At the last inhabited hamlet before the high country, they paid a goatherd to keep the animals and continued with only what they could carry. 2 days later, they reached an old pilgrim bridge across a ravine, wooden planks hanging from iron chains above a river swollen with spring melt. Leonor tested the first board. It groaned. Your father crossed this? 3 times. Did he dislike you? Julien stepped past her. Deeply. Come along. Halfway across, a plank split under Leonor's foot. She dropped with a cry. Julien caught her around the waist and slammed against the chain, her legs hanging over open air. Do not let go. I had not planned to. His face was close, jaw clenched with effort. Leonor locked her arms around his shoulders. Most men would have let the thief fall after she robbed them. Most men have poorer manners. He dragged her back onto the bridge. For a moment, neither moved. His arm stayed around her, then his gaze dropped to her mouth. Leonor stepped back first. Thank you. You sound disappointed. I may have judged beautiful men too harshly. Give me time. She laughed, and they crossed the rest of the bridge with their hands joined around the rope. They reached the last shelter before the high valleys beneath a hard spring rain. The ruined chapel had no doors and half a roof, but Julien managed a fire. Edmund's map ended there. Beyond the chapel, his last page held only rough bearings, a sketch of a broken ridge and one unfinished line. If the valley lies where the old chronicle claims. Why did your father truly want the compass? Leonor asked. Julien folded the map. He had an elder brother who vanished in these passes when they were boys. At first, he thought the compass could find him. Later, I think he needed the search to mean something. My mother said he could find any road except the one home. Leonor watched the fire. My mother left me at an inn. She promised to return before supper. Julien looked at her. How old were you? Old enough to stop waiting. He offered no pity, only fed the fire. That is why you want the compass. A hidden road is useful to someone who never wants to be trapped. And if it leaves someone behind? Leonor met his eyes. Then they should have run faster. The words sounded cruel even to her. Julien looked back at the flames and did not smile. The next morning, Edmund's trail ended completely. Julien followed the bearings from the chapel while Leonor searched ahead. They found the broken ridge from his sketch, then a stream among bluebells. Beyond it stood a wall of pale flowering thorns higher than a castle gate. There was no sign Edmund had ever reached it. Julien searched one direction while Leonor searched the other. She found a narrow hollow where water disappeared beneath the roots. They cut through dead branches, crawled beneath the living ones, and emerged into a hidden valley washed in afternoon gold. Wildflowers covered the slopes. At the far end stood a low stone doorway split by ancient roots. 2 names were carved above it, Lirith, Elthar. Julien stopped. His father had spent 30 years reaching for a place he never saw. Leonor touched his sleeve. He was right. Julien stared at the doorway. He almost found it. And you did. After a moment, he took her hand, and they entered. The tomb had no jeweled doors or clever traps, only collapsed stairs, flooded passages, and roots splitting old stone. Leonor found hidden mechanisms, while Julien judged the ruin from his father's fragments. In the lowest chamber, 2 plain stone tombs rested beneath a broken dome. Lirith and Elthar had been carved facing one another, crownless, their hands reaching across the space between them. There was no gold, only a round instrument between their stone fingers, half silver and half faded gold, 2 needles beneath clouded glass. The compass of lost roads, Leonor whispered. Julien opened Edmund's notebook. Beneath an old symbol his father had written 3 words, a way between worlds. He misunderstood the name, Julien said. A sun had been carved beside Elthar's hand, a moon beside Lirith's. Julien turned the matching rings on the instrument and pressed its central pin. Silver light opened through the chamber like a curtain. Beyond it stood another forest under a clear sky, white-barked trees shining beneath a pale moon. A world. One needle pointed through the silver opening, the other swung toward a crack in the wall, and stone shifted to reveal a passage. Then cold filled the chamber. A man stood in the doorway, though neither had heard him enter. Tall, dark-haired, and beautiful, with the terrible stillness of something that had never feared time. His gaze went first to the tombs, grief sharpening his face for one instant, then to the instrument in Julien's hand. "Put it back." Julien stepped in front of Leonor. "Who are you?" The stranger ignored him. Silver light gathered around his fingers. Leonor saw the open passage. She and Julien ran as the chamber shook, the gold needle guiding them upward. Near daylight, the floor gave way. Julien shoved Leonor ahead, but a slab crashed across his boot and drove him to one knee. "Julien!" She dropped beside him and tried to lift the stone. It barely moved. Silver light was already spreading through the tunnel behind them. "Help me," Julien said through clenched teeth. "If we lift together, I can pull my foot free." Leonor looked toward the daylight, then at the Wayfinder lying beside her. "Leonor." There was fear in his voice now. She picked up the Wayfinder. Julien stared at her. For one terrible moment, neither of them moved. "I am sorry," she whispered. Then Leonor ran. Behind her, Julien called her name once. She did not look back. Julien woke beneath the broken dome with silver roots bound tightly around his wrists. The stranger stood between the two tombs, looking at the empty place where the Wayfinder had rested. "You brought a thief into a grave." Julien pulled against the roots. They tightened. "You left something valuable inside it." The stranger turned his head. "A Wayfinder is not treasure." "What does it do?" A long silence followed. "More than you are entitled to know." Julien's jaw tightened. "You want me to retrieve it." "I want you to correct what you have done." She took it. "And you brought her here." Silver light moved through the roots around Julien's wrists. Pain shot up his arms. He stopped struggling. "Why not go after her yourself?" The stranger stepped closer. "Because a fae crossing openly through human cities attracts attention. Courts begin asking questions. Old agreements become inconvenient." His gaze settled on Julien. "You are less troublesome." Julien swallowed. "And if I refuse?" The stranger crouched before him. "Then I go myself." There was no anger in his voice. That made it worse. "I will take back what belongs here. The thief will discover what it means to steal from the dead, and you will discover what it means to lead me to her." Julien held his gaze. "What do you want?" "The Wayfinder. Every copy of the road. Every mark that could lead another human here." "How long do I have?" "Until this moon dies." The stranger took Julien's hand. "You may call me Tavrin." Silver fire drove into Julien's palm. He gasped as a narrow line burned itself beneath his skin, curving toward his wrist. "What did you do?" "Gave you reason not to disappoint me." Julien stared at the silver mark. "And when it reaches my wrist?" Tavrin's expression did not change. "Your name becomes mine." Julien went still. "No road will lead you home. No page will keep your name. Those who loved you will remember that someone is missing, but not who." The silver line moved beneath his skin. "And then?" "Then you will cross the veil and belong to me until the Wayfinder is restored." Julien thought of his mother, his father's maps, his own name written beneath every road he had ever drawn. Tavrin rose. "Bring it back before the moon dies." The roots released his wrists. "Or I will finish this myself." Leonor spent 13 days trying to sell the Wayfinder. One buyer dreamed of conquering hidden kingdoms, another asked the price of immortal blood, and the third arrived with 6 armed men. Leonor escaped through a kitchen window. By the time she returned to her rented room, spring rain had soaked her black hair and guilt had worn through every lie she had told herself. Julien was waiting beside the cold hearth, his left hand wrapped in a strip of linen. Relief struck hard. Then she saw his face. "You survived. You sound surprised." "I thought—" "You needed to think many things." His father's map lay across his knees, an iron cuff beside it. "Give me the Wayfinder." "I do not have it." Julien glanced at the bulge beneath the leather at her waist. Leonor sighed. "You used to be more charming." "I used to believe you might not leave me beneath a mountain." The words struck cleanly. She drew the Wayfinder. Julien held out his hand. Leonor looked at the door. "Please do not make me chase you through another city." "Would you?" "Yes." She threw the Wayfinder toward the bed and ran. Julien caught her around the waist. They struck the wall. She drove an elbow back, but he trapped her wrist and snapped one cuff around it, the other around his own. "This is monstrous." "This is experience." "You are taking me back to him." "I am taking the Wayfinder back." "And if he kills me?" Julien unwrapped his left hand. The silver road had crossed his palm and nearly reached his wrist. Leonor's anger vanished. "What is that?" "The price of the open door you chose." They rode north before sunrise. For 2 days, Julien spoke only when necessary, and Leonor discovered she preferred his anger to his silence. "You cannot drag me back to a fae and call yourself honorable." "I did not steal from his dead." "So he threatened you, and now you do whatever he says?" Julien's expression hardened. "If I do not return the Wayfinder, he comes for it himself." Leonor gave a sharp laugh. "And I suppose dragging me along is for my protection." Julien reined in among fields bright with new grass. "Yes." The answer silenced her for a moment. "He made it very clear what would happen when he found you." Leonor looked away. "I thought he wanted the object." "You needed to think that." "I thought you would escape." "I was pinned beneath a stone." Her jaw tightened. "I was afraid." "So was I." The break in his voice frightened her more than anger. Julien pulled off his glove and showed her the silver line burning across his palm. "He gave me until the moon dies. If I fail, he takes my name. My mother forgets who she lost. Every road I ever knew stops leading home. And then I belong to him until the Wayfinder is returned." Leonor stared at the mark. "I didn't know." "No." Julien closed his hand. "You only knew I might die." He urged his horse forward and left her to follow. That night, Leonor waited until he slept and stole the cuff key from inside his coat. She could have opened the lock, taken the southern road, and disappeared before dawn. Instead, she hid the key in her sleeve and lay awake beside the dying fire. By morning, she was still chained to him. Julien never knew. Spring floods had broken the old bridge. A rock fall had torn away its center, shattered planks hanging above the swollen ravine. The silver mark had reached Julien's forearm. There was no time for another crossing. He tied a rope around both their waists. "I go first." Leonor lifted the chain between them. "You do enjoy arranging my life." "I enjoy keeping you alive." They balanced along one surviving iron chain. Near the middle, a support snapped. Julien fell, the rope wrenching Leonor against the bridge. His injured boot caught in hanging ropes, leaving him above the river. Another anchor groaned loose from the stone. Leonor felt the stolen key in her sleeve. One turn and one cut of the rope would free her. She drew it out. Julien saw it, and surprise crossed his face. He understood. He did not ask her to stay. That was worse. Leonor unlocked her cuff, then clipped it around the iron chain and reached down. "Give me your hand." "The anchor will not hold us both." "Then climb quickly." "Leonor, I left you once, I remember." She caught his wrist, cut the rope trapping his boot, and hauled until blood ran beneath her nails. Julien climbed, and together they collapsed onto the stone ledge as the last section of bridge tore free behind them. Julien looked at the open cuff. You could have gone. Yes. Why didn't you? Leonor swallowed. Because you were there. His eyes closed. That does not undo what you did. I know. I am still angry. I know. She expected him to turn away. Instead, he touched her face. I do not know whether I can trust you. Leonor leaned into his palm. Then do not trust forever. Trust me until morning. His mouth curved faintly. Very well. He kissed her. Anger and fear remained, then softened beneath relief. For once, she was not stealing, and he was not trying to save her. When they parted, Julien rested his forehead against hers. In the morning, I may be angry again. I would be disappointed if you recovered too quickly. This time, he smiled. They reached the white thorns on the final night of the moon. Julien could barely stand, the silver road burning past his elbow. Leonor carried the Wayfinder. No cuff joined them. Tavern waited inside the burial chamber. Leonor returned the Wayfinder to the stone hands. Julien laid Edmund's map beside it and held the parchment for one last moment. My father was right. Then he let go. Silver flame consumed every road and every line of Edmund's writing. Leonor removed a copied route from her sleeve. Julien stared at her. I dislike having only one way out, she said. She surrendered that too. The flame took it. The silver mark vanished from Julien's arm. Tavern lifted the Wayfinder, then set a heavy gold clasp at their feet, worked with 3 deep green stones. It did not glow or hum. Simply old gold, worth more than either had ever possessed. Leonor eyed him. What is that? Payment for returning what was not yours. You are paying a thief? I am paying the man who brought it back. What he does with his share is his mistake. Julien almost laughed. Then Tavern's face cooled. You have carried enough of our world home. Julien moved closer to Leonor. What are you taking? Only the road you were never meant to know. Cold light filled the chamber. Leonor found Julien's hand. The tomb disappeared. Leonor woke beneath an old stone arch with morning sun across her face. Julien lay beside her in the grass, pale hair bright against his blue cloak, one hand locked around hers. She looked at him for a moment before his name came back to her. Julien. His eyes opened. Leonor. Relief crossed his face. He pushed himself upright, then winced and looked down at the bandage around his boot. What happened to me? Leonor frowned. You heard it on the journey. How? She opened her mouth, but no answer came. Julien looked at her. Leonor remembered the market, the stolen map, the road north and the ruined chapel. Beyond that, everything dissolved into mist. He touched the empty map case at his belt. Where is my father's map? I don't know. That silenced them both. Leonor looked down and noticed the bruise circling her wrist. Do you remember this? Julien shook his head. Sunlight flashed between them. Something gold lay in the grass beside Leonor. She picked up a heavy clasp worked with 3 deep green stones. Is this yours? I was about to ask you. She weighed it in her palm. It could buy a house. Julien studied the stones. 2, if you stop insulting the jeweler. Then you negotiate. He looked again at the empty map case. Did we find what we were looking for? Leonor glanced at the gold, then at him. Apparently. Julien was quiet for a moment. I remember being angry with you. That does not narrow things down. The corner of his mouth moved. Did I forgive you? I hope so. That sounds suspicious. Leonor looked at their still joined hands. Would it help if I kissed you? Julien considered this solemnly. It seems irresponsible not to test the theory. She kissed him. For one heartbeat it felt new. Then his hand found the back of her neck with the certainty of something remembered beneath thought. When they parted, neither of them spoke about it. Below the hill, the ordinary road divided at a spring-green crossroads. No hidden compass pointed the way. No silver needle promised freedom without cost. Julien looked left, then right, and waited. Leonor tucked the gold safely inside her coat, chose the left road, and kept hold of his hand.